Hi guys, how are you doing? It's Elaine Bintz, fitness coach and nutritionist. We're in 2024 and I'm taking a little detour from our nutrition skills series because I keep getting this question and it is, Elaine, what are fitness tests or what is an assessment? So I will, right back in the month of September, I will get back into our nutrition skills and our goals with that. But I'm going to take a little detour and talk a little bit more about fitness tests. So if you are brand new to my practice, my company is Energy and Wellness. And if you have never worked with me, before your first session, I have you complete Google Forms, which has things like an informed consent, policies and procedures, PAR-Q, which is physical activity, readiness, questionnaire, waiver, consent for me to write an exercise program for you. So there is a series of forms, and I do apologize. There are quite a few forms when you first start. If you want to do fitness testing or work with me with fitness coaching or personal training, we do these Google forms so that we can, and it's shared through a private portal so that I can have some more information about any limitations or medical conditions that you're experiencing. So let's get to it. So what are fitness tests? So I offer 4 services. So we're in the year 2024. I offer the comprehensive health and wellness program, accountability coaching, coaching sessions, and my mentoring program for current or future wellness professionals. So this type of session, fitness testing, can be performed in the comprehensive health and wellness program or in the coaching sessions. So unless you want to add on a coaching session, the accountability coaching and the mentoring program, they do not include this service. So to give you some more detail, if you look at my coaching services, what we're discussing today is fitness testing or assessments. So a lot of people will ask, what should I expect? So if you've never worked with a trainer or a coach and this is brand new to you, so say for example, you've worked with somebody else, maybe you didn't do a series of tests, or you really just want this information, I'm going to try to be as thorough as I can be today so as to answer your questions. But I want to be as brief as possible so as to not waste your time. So the balancing act between the two. So if you've already experienced this in my practice in the past 25 years, I've done the same type of tests. The style and delivery has changed, and I have advanced in how I am saving information as far as like HIPAA information, and then in privacy, those sorts of things, especially with COVID, the delivery has changed a little bit. I can offer this service remotely via video chat, and I'll go through some of the materials that you're going to need for this. Okay, so say you're brand new. You've never done fitness testing, and if you are a returning client, if you've worked with me in the past, you'll notice there's a lot of similarities to the first session. So if you've never done this before, we would start with a Word document that I created. So we would first start with gathering things like your name, your age, your height, the date that you're doing the test, your birthday, and then your weight is part of a body measurement. I use a body fat test. I use the BIA scale that has the hand part and the feet part. So if you have one of these scales at home, you might be familiar, where you step on barefoot and then we get your body fat percentage as well. So this document would be a first time test. So the first test is a heart measurement. So we measure your resting heart rate. So for example, if you're doing this test remotely and we are not meeting in person, you will need a way to measure your heart rate. So a lot of people have those bio measurement tools like Garmin watch, Apple Watch, Fitbit, any of those. If you're coming to me in person or I'm traveling to you, if you're local to Cherville, Indiana, so I work with clients in person in a physical location in Cherville. I also travel to clients locally, Cherville, Dyer, Highland, St. John, Crown Point, depending on where you are in Crown Point. But I can provide these tools and resources and materials if we are meeting in person. But if we're doing this remotely, one of the tools you're going to want is a heart rate monitor. And we measure your heart rate test for a field test. So it's about a 5-minute test. And then using that data, I use the resting heart rate number to calculate what's called your training or your target heart rate zone. So if you've done Orange Theory, or if you've done any of the the running coaching programs, like I've done the marathon coaching and the running coaching over the years, or track and field, things I've taught that were including like the mile, the 5K, the 10K, the marathon, that training heart rate zone, we would give you the different zones that you can use in order to implement a cardio training plan. And then the second one are body measurements. So if you're doing this remotely, you would want to have a fabric measuring tape, like a flexible measuring tape, not one of those stiff ones, because we'd want to use this for your body. So like if you've had something for sewing, or if you have some sort of a kit at home that has one of these more flexible measuring tapes, that's what you would need. So know that all of these tests are optional. So these are not required. You do not have any mandatory tests that you would do to start with me. But as far as being a fitness coach and offering you information, I am a big promoter in having baseline data. So we would use this information to establish a plan. None of this information is ever used for judgment or to have a negative mindset. It's used to gather information about where you are today. So your body measurements, the optional, again, optional, or you could do all the tests, are chest, navel, which would be your waist, hips, neck, shoulders, biceps, your right and left arms, thighs, your right and left, and your calves. So these measurement tools, and I want to remind everybody that when your body is changing, as you are transforming and you're getting in better shape, there is the possibility where the number on the scale might stay the same. Because if you lose body fat and if you gain muscle at the same time, these two, for example, if you can see these, they both are 1 pound of weight. The muscle takes up less space than the fat. So if you have a loss of 5 pounds of fat, but a gain of 5 pounds of muscle, and then say you do that in the time period, maybe 8 to 10 weeks, maybe it just depends on your diet and how your body responds. But let's use the number 5 as just an example. So you lose 5 pounds of fat, but you gain 5 pounds of muscle. The number on the scale might not change, but your body measurement might change. You might lose an inch in your waist. That's why it's important to do different measurement tools, not just body weight, to see how your body is actually transforming. So the next test, and depending on how you enter my practice, the next test we're going to talk about is a cardio test. So if you're entering my practice as a referral from a physician or a cardiologist, we may or may not do a cardio test. So I do not perform graded exercise tests. I am not working in a cardiac rehab lab. But if you are someone who is at risk, so the intake process with the Google Forms will tell me your risk stratification and whether or not we should or should not be doing this cardio test. But let's say, for example, you have no risk factors and you're going to be doing the cardio test. You would still wear the heart rate monitor. And then if you're coming to me in person, like shareable here, I have a treadmill, elliptical, bike, both upright. There's 2 different bikes, upright and recumbent bike. If I'm coming to your location, say you live locally, we could be meeting at a park. You could be walking outside, running, jogging, depending on what the weather will allow for, meeting at a track. At your home, you don't have to have cardio equipment. If you have stairs, we can use those for stairs or stepping. We can even do bodyweight calisthenics. So the cardiovascular test can be a variety of different tests, but that gives us information about your exercise heart rate. And then number 4, the strength test. A typical test we can do if you have no shoulder, neck, or back issues is a push-up or a push-up hold test. But depending on, again, how you enter my practice. If you're someone who's come off a back surgery, knee surgery, maybe you finished physical therapy, you've been released, and you want to continue to get stronger on your own, we might not use the push-up test as the strength measurement tool. We might do something that is specific and more related to the joint the muscles or the area of your body that you want to strengthen. So then we use this tool and see over time, maybe a month or 2 or 3 months, if you decide you want to do this test again, and to do the same test we did 2, 3, 1 month ago, and to see if you've gotten stronger. And then the last one, number 5, is flexibility. So typically for flexibility, the flexibility test I do is a stand and reach, which is reaching, bending at the hips and reaching toward the toes. And the goal is to be able to touch your toes. But if you can't touch your toes, we would measure how far, how many inches you are away from your toes. So a couple side notes, if you do have back issues, like if you have slipped disc, herniated disc, we would not do the forward fold, which we call it a forward fold in yoga. It's a stand and reach or reach your toes flexibility test. But depending on your body and your limitations, we might do a different flexibility test. And then we use this information. So the time, usually this test, all 5 of these tests takes an hour. And know that these coaching sessions, any of these coaching services, we can meet for an hour, 75 minutes, hour and a half, up to 2 hours. So depending on your space, time, and your budget, these don't have to be limited to a 1-hour appointment. So if you have time and in your budget, and we budgeted time when we planned ahead for our appointment, we could use these tests to put together an exercise program. So a lot of my clients who do this might only meet with me a handful of times a year, and they might want to update what they're doing, especially entering fall and the changing of the seasons, kids going back to school, your schedule might be changing, whether or not you're cooking at home might be changing. A lot of people, their summertime routine is very different than their fall routine. So this is, I think, why a lot of people have asked as their kids are going back to school. But the exercise program would include components like cardio program, strength, flexibility, based on your short and long-term goals. And then nutrition. So this is a question I get a lot. So with my nutrition degree, so technically fitness testing would fall under fitness coaching as a category, but if you're a client that comes to me and you say, hey, I want to lose body fat, I want to get leaner, or I want to gain muscle. Well, anytime we discuss body fat, usually we do need to talk a little bit about your diet. So if we are having your primary goal, let's say, for example, in the next 3 months, I don't know. So say it's August, September, October, November, maybe by Thanksgiving, you want to lose 15 pounds. That's realistic. Okay. So 5, 10, 15, okay, 3 pounds, or 3 months rather, 5 pounds a month. But we would need to discuss a little bit about what your diet is like and what are some short-term goals that you can implement in your own life in order to accomplish these goals in addition to exercise. So fitness testing itself is really the collection of information and getting the data. So like I said, if you're brand new, this is more the template that we would use. But let's say you're a returning customer. Say you're a client and you've worked with me 10 years ago and you've come back, and I have the information stored from what we measured in 2014. The format will be about the same that we actually do the 5 tests, but the data delivery might be a little different. So say, for example, you've been a client, you've done this a few times with me. We can look, using an Excel spreadsheet, we can look at more long-term data. The actual tests are the same, but you can see the progress over time to see, for example, let's say body fat. We can use one of the measurements, the body fat or the percentage of fat, or the pounds of fat, both body fat percentage and then calculating the pounds of fat. Well, maybe 5 years ago you had 25% body fat, and then your body has changed over time. Maybe now you have 27% body fat. So we can go back in time and say, hey, in this time period about in your life, a couple years ago when your body fat was a little lower or a little higher, depending on what your numbers are, do you recall what your lifestyle was like? And gathering long-term data like this and being able to sit and look at it and then kind of see what your lifestyle was like. Maybe you had a job change, had a baby, maybe your family grew, or you moved locations, COVID happened. A lot of clients have noticed a lot of change in their plans and their life over the past 4 years since COVID. And these things highly affect your body fat percentage, your muscle mass as you age. So I specialize in osteoporosis strength training. So some of your goals, especially with strength, might be more related to building your bone density and then strengthening your muscles. And maybe the focus is not so much on fat loss. So again, I hope this gave you some information about what to expect. Let's say, for example, you've scheduled an appointment and you're coming in we're doing your first fitness test. Some of the things you're going to want to do is wear like athletic clothes, t-shirt, shorts, pants, yoga pants, something comfortable that you can move in, especially if we're going to do the cardio strength and flexibility test. These performance tests, usually wearing jean material clothing is not comfortable. So I've had some clients come in, say they're coming from work or something, and we can do the test, but specifically wearing jeans can lead to chafing, and it can be really uncomfortable on the skin. So I'd highly suggest, if you're coming from work or you're not already wearing athletic clothes, to have something that's comfortable and loose and a little free flowing, and then have a water bottle, or I can provide a water bottle for you if we're in person. If you're doing this remotely, so a lot of people have asked to do this online, the tests and all that information, I can email you the templates beforehand. Some of the materials you'll need if you're going to do the heart rate test, the cardio and the resting heart rate test, a heart rate monitor, Fitbit, Garmin, one of those. Measurements, you're going to want a fabric measuring tape. The cardio test can be, if we're meeting in person, I have cardio equipment at your home. You'd want to plan ahead what you're going to do for the cardio test. So when it comes time for that 5 to 10 minute test, what location do you need to be at, and what materials, and then what resources do you need to have. And with strength, usually if you're going to do the push-up test, just using the floor, maybe carpet or a yoga mat or an exercise mat would work. So again, this is Elaine Bintz, fitness coach, nutritionist. If you'd like to reach out to me for more information, you can email me. It's my name, elainebintz@gmail.com, or you can always call or text 708-845-6201. Like I said, these are tests that can be done remotely. It requires a little more planning with remote, but that's not impossible. And I hope that this has been helpful, and this gives you some information and food for thought as far as what an assessment would look like. Thank you guys. I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day. Bye.